Hey guys, Coderman here. Today I want to talk about the 5 things to always land a client or project. And really, you could use this in sales overall. When you're just starting out in a creative space, there's a lot you have to learn, and that really doesn't change as you get further into your professional career. And one of those things that you kind of always have to keep perfecting is sales. And I found over the last years that, I've really kind of honed in on a whole bunch of tips and ways to kind of, increase your sales potential. And I wanted to kind of just dig through those and really just kind of lay out my top 5. Like I said, there'll be a lot more. I'll throw a couple more in the description. You have to realize that when you're selling or when you're talking to a prospect, that you have to qualify whether that's a good lead or not right away. The reason for this is twofold. To start, you want to make sure that you're not wasting your time, but at the same time, you want to make sure they're not wasting their time, because somebody that you're talking to could potentially become a customer or prospect, a valid prospect, later on, right? So they could have a project that's not a fit for you right now, or a problem that you can't solve, or don't have the ability or desire or whatever, but that person may have something down the line that you have a good conversation with them. They're still going to remember your contact info. They're still going to want to reach out to you. So when you're talking to somebody, what I like to do is when I'm talking to somebody about a project, or actually when I'm even before the project, when I'm just talking to somebody to start, I don't talk a lot about what I do or the things that I've done or things that I can do. I actually turn the conversation on them. So for instance, if I meet somebody at a networking event and they're like, hey, what do you do for work? Or tell me a little bit about yourself, blah, blah, blah. Our natural instinct is to want to talk and to want to dive right in and say, here's what I do, here's all the great things, here's all the great clients I've worked with. And I've been guilty of this in the past. We've worked with some great people, and I love to share those projects. The problem is, to be honest, the prospect doesn't care. They have a problem and they need a solution. Or they're just just going to an event and they're networking. But more often than not, they have a problem and they need a solution. So what I do is, instead of saying, oh, well, here's all the stuff that I do, I say, why don't you tell me what it is that you do and how I can help you, or how we might be able to align, right? So now what I've done is I've kind of turned the tables. They tell me all about what they do, and you listen intently. You listen like you've never listened before, and you listen for keys, right? So they're going to, obviously keywords are going to be like, problem, issue, lack of sales, growth, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole list of well more than I want to go through or should even go through in a video like this, that are triggers to say, okay, this is the problems that they're having and this is how I can solve them. So that's tip 1. Now that you have qualified that this is a good lead and you want to continue the conversation, now you go in and you explain how your services or your skill set can help that client. However, let's say that you're talking to somebody and they're telling you about their problems, but they're not a stakeholder. They're not somebody that you can talk to about the specific project or the specific need. You've had a good conversation with this person up to that point. Don't go any further with them. Ask if you can be introduced to, VP of sales or technology strategist, or, not so much CEO. If it's a larger corporation, it's just not realistic. If it's a smaller corporation or a smaller business, founder, principal, partner, because more than likely they know that person. And if you've had a good conversation with them, they're kind of going to present you to that person because it makes them look good. And let's be honest, people, no matter where they are in business, want kudos. They want accolades. So if that person brings you and you're a home run, that's going to reflect well on them. If they've had a good conversation with you, then they know you're a fit. So, however, if the person is the person you want to be talking to, then here's what I do. I align what I tell them about the company, 100% truthful, always keep your integrity and your honesty in business no matter what. However, if, for instance, it's a fashion blogger and they're having problems with social media retention, I may talk about a project that we worked on and the strategies that we used, but more importantly, I'm going to highlight the solution, how we increased revenue or increased viewership or whatever the metric or metrics were for that project. I want to push that on, in my conversation with them. Now, a couple things happen here. You kind of instantly become the authority in the conversation because clearly they're talking to you and they want to know more about what you do. And what also happens is it opens up follow-up questions. More than likely, if the conversation's going well, they're going to have questions for you, so you can kind of continue the conversation. However, one of the biggest things to do when you're speaking with a prospect is don't speak about the things that you can do. Speak of the things that you can solve. So once again, everybody has a problem or an issue in business. That's what they're looking for help with. Speak to how you can solve that issue. So in my case, I'm an app developer. If somebody comes to me and says, we want to build this new social media app that, interfaces with YouTube, so to speak, I'm not going to say, we'll use technology X, Y, Z and do this and blah, 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 all this other stuff, because honestly, they don't care. There is going to be a time when the technology conversation has to happen. There is going to be a time when the technology conversation has to happen, but when you're qualifying the lead and when you're initially talking about the project, that's not the time. So rather what you do is say, well, we worked on a similar project and what we did was, and this is the benefits that they saw, and we can do that for you. So it's kind of like when you're talking to them, you're obviously in sales, you're trying to close as fast as possible. But what you're really trying to do is you're trying to drill into their pain point, what they're having issue with, and more importantly, how you can help them solve that. Okay, so at this point, you have spoke with the prospect, you've determined that they're a fit, you've learned a little bit about the problem that they're having, you've explained your solutions or, your solution or solutions, and now the next step, or step 3, is to close the sale. Now, of course, that's always the goal, but one of the key things here is that when you're talking to a prospect, you do not want to walk away from that meeting or that chance encounter with a follow-up. Here's my business card. I'll follow up with you later. We should sit down and chat more. Blah, 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 all this stuff. You don't want to be the person that says, let's talk more. Because as you know, in business, in anything, action is bigger than talk. So when you're talking to a prospect, what I like to do is I've now qualified that they're a lead for my company. We can help them. I see their problem, and I kind of already see the solution to some extent. It's not crystal clear, but I've definitely started to see what their issue is and how we can help them. Now what I like to do is, to be honest, what I do is I will ask them point blank if we're a fit. Now, I know that seems bold, but I guess it's similar to if you're talking to a girl at a bar and you've had a good conversation. At some point, you have to ask them out. You have to ask for that next meeting or that next step. Assuming that the person is interested, they're good to go. Now what you have to do is you have to set up the next step right then and there. So what I like to do is say, okay, great, this has been great information. We can certainly help you. What I want to do is I want to put together a detailed brief for the project, a proposal, more details about our company, and I'm looking forward to working together. What that does is it explains the next step, which is that you're going to put together a proposal. Now, a quick tip outside of these 5, a bonus one if you will, is if you speak to a client within 24 hours, you should send that proposal. Honestly, I try to send it same day. If I speak, say I go to a networking event in the morning or, a lunch meeting or something like that, I try to have that proposal in their inbox by the end of the day. Because it's like anything with sales, people are hot at that moment, but they might meet more people, they might have more doubts, they might have more questions. You had a great conversation with them, you've got through those first 3 hurdles. You don't want to lose the sale over delaying the proposal, because that also shows the likelihood of how the project's going to go. So you may be a great talker, but when it comes time to actually doing, having action, you're not putting in the work. And I've got to be honest, a lot of people, they'll pitch a project, they talk, they have a great game, they speak well, everything's great, but then they drop the ball in the execution. And unfortunately, some clients don't pick up on that, and they'll say, oh, well, maybe it was delayed, do I wait? It's actually a really good sign that it's not going to be a great project. No matter how great the conversation was, it's not going to work out to the way that you think it is. Okay, before I go on to tip 5, let's recap. So first, we qualified that the prospect is a fit. We've learned what their issue is and how we can solve it. We've determined that there's somebody we want to work with, and we've set up our next steps. We're going to go back now and we're going to create a proposal and we're going to kick off this project. However, everything's great, right? So you've written the proposal, they've said that it's great, we want to get started, but the down payment check doesn't come, the follow-up meeting gets blown, they've kind of gone cold. So now's not the time to start kicking yourself and saying, what did I do wrong? How could I do this different? Blah, blah, blah. Stop all that. That is actually going to destroy you worse than anything in business, is self-doubt. You've done everything right. They probably got busy. So I've learned from a couple of different people in sales and in business and in personal health and a whole bunch of other categories that we as humans try to, when we come up with an issue or a dilemma, we use a lot of theory and what ifs, and we jump to conclusions. But in business and anything else, you want to stick to the facts. So is it possible that they decided they don't want to work on the project and maybe they found someone better or something along those lines? Of course, it's always possible. You could have set up a date with somebody that you had a great conversation with, and for whatever reason, they just don't show up. No call, no show. However, more than likely what happened is that person got busy. They had something drop on their lap that's more pressing. So clearly you've had a good conversation with them. You guys are about to move forward. Follow up. Okay? Send an email, call. What I like to do is I will first send an email, because the thing about calling is if they're busy, they kind of just brush it off. Email sits in their inbox, they see it, it jogs their memory. Anybody that's even halfway decent is going to respond. Even if it's hey, we decided to go a different direction, I apologize for the delay. If the email doesn't work, then I'll call. If the call doesn't work, I'll email again. Hey, just checking in. Sent over the proposal, want to make sure you got it. Technology is is a fickle thing, and the message may have never got to you. Although, funny thing about, so if you send an email with an attachment, a proposal, whatever, what a lot of people do is they'll just throw it in the email, send it off. Don't do that. Attach some sort of a tracker to it. So what I do is use like bit.ly links, or create your own short link service, which we have in our company. So when the person clicks on that link, I know that they've downloaded that file. I know how many times they've downloaded it. I can get their IP address and a bunch of other information to kind of really loose demographics in terms of how many people in the company are opening it. Has it been shared to other locations? Just metrics that help us, not so much determine if they're lying if they say they never got it. It's more just to say, hey, we sent off that awesome proposal and it never even got opened. Okay, so clearly something happened with the email. Let's send it again. So what I'll usually do is I will follow up maybe 2-3 times with email, 1 or 2 calls. I'll wait about a week. If nothing comes of that, then, even if it's a week, I feel like they should get back to me, but hey, some people don't. What I'll do is I'll just send one final email, and it's always an email, never a call, is I will, in a sense, call them out. Okay, so we've had a good conversation, we sent off the proposal, everything's good, and this has actually worked quite well. I will send an email that, to paraphrase, essentially says, I've been trying to reach you to get a status update on when this project will get started. If you've gone in another direction, please just let us know. If there's something that we could further explain, or if you have a new timeline, please also let us know. We'd love to work together and hope to hear from you soon. Something along those lines. That gets an insane amount of response, because essentially what you've done is you've called them out on the bullshit. You've said that we had a great conversation, blah, 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 all this stuff, and now for whatever reason, it's just dead air. That being said, they will respond and they'll say, we have a budget constraint, or we have we decided to go a different direction. Now, you as a salesperson, it's up to you to determine if that's still a qualified lead, or if you're chasing what I now say is a cold lead. So you had a great conversation, everything was perfect, but for whatever reason, they're not biting. So let's move on and go to the next one. Or they have a valid excuse. We just hit our fiscal end a year, and now we have to wait till the beginning of the new year. Let's connect in early January. Okay, so I write a note, make sure to connect in early January. Or they just, for whatever reason, decided that they don't want to do the project, and that's fine. Wasted a little bit of time, but, it's cost of doing business. All right, guys, so there you have it. The 5 ways to close more sales and just, in general, work better in sales, qualifying leads, and getting more clients. I don't want to make this video too long, but I do welcome your comments, and I definitely want to hear what you have to say. If you have more sales questions or business-related questions, leave a comment below. Please like and subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you guys on the next one.